And when we come and we be part of the effort, we're bringing trained individuals that know how to do and have been through the process of this before. So many times I'm asked, how do we get started? Where do we start? What happens? And so this is at 100,000 foot level, but what I'm trying to share with you guys today is there's already a network out there that we're just joining into. So we're not as a Rotary committee, disaster committee, and all the other ones. We're just fitting into something that's already there. Um, the local EMAs, emergency management agencies, are actually, when a disaster happens, they start evaluating the damage and they start reporting to the state what's going on, what the needs are. There's multiple groups within the EMA. I think there's like 15, everything from roads to safety, just multiple groups of that. So they start reporting to the state. In the background, Disaster Aid USA leaders start responding, reaching out to the district governors of the affected area and the club presidents of that affected area, if we can't reach the district governors, to see what the possible needs that are there. The local EMAs start having calls with a group you probably don't know of yet, but you'll hear a lot about in this effort. It's Ohio VOAD, and the VOAD stands for Volunteer Organizations Assisting in Disasters. We, as in Disaster Aid, and we also, as in Rotary, are already a part of Ohio VOAD. And what starts happening after this is the calls. They start including the Ohio VOAD members into those state calls, and so we can know what's going on and start this there. We'll start communicating backwards into our Rotary, our Disaster Aid USA teams to look at deployment plans, and you start looking for housing and all the things that needs to go along with that. And then once an area is deemed safe, the Ohio VOAD informs the NGOs or the volunteer organizations as safe to deploy. So it's a must that we work with Ohio VOAD, and it's something that's every state has a VOAD. Some of them aren't, my experience, some of them aren't as strong as others. We're lucky that we have a good VOAD system in Ohio. And so then we start looking at the day volunteers of
David, could you let the folks on the call know some of the other members of VOAD?
yes, yeah, and you'll see that in the next slide or two.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, so so within so what do we do, and what can what with what would this committee and or the people of Rotary do within the disasters? So it actually starts prior to the disasters, because I mentioned having trained individuals. I can share with you, we've actually seen where people have had trailers, they've got the tools and all that stuff, but they just don't know how to go into a disaster area and do it. So it's the planning prior to that, and it's the training prior to that. And you'll hear a lot of the EMAs talk about these being blue sky days. So so we actually go through some what if sessions. We go through some personal training, both yourself and organizations. And then once a disaster happens, and I usually say that it really depends on the size of the disaster. For example, last August we were up in your area helping with tornadoes. That was a fairly small event compared to the last two hurricanes that hit Florida and the 6 states above it that went up through there. So it's 4 to 6 weeks. I can tell you that there's still people helping and doing relief efforts from the last two hurricanes. But it's typically 4 to 6 weeks. Some of those other people in there is Red Cross. Red Cross is one of they're in the Ohio VOAD with us. Crisis Cleanup Group is in the with us, so we can assist with the Red Cross centers that are established up. You could assist with the Rotary response teams. You could volunteer to take input calls on crisis cleanup. Many people don't even know about this, but crisis cleanup is actually a database of people that volunteer to take phone calls to log the problems or the incidents that people need. I need a tree cut in the front of my yard. I need debris picked up. I've been flooded and I needed to be mucked and gutted out. So all that, and you can just do that from your home. You can do it from your home while the disaster is going on, or even up to the weeks after that. We can assist in the establishing the distribution centers. There's several distribution centers may be set up, or it could be one, depending on the size of the event. And then you kind of get involved in the actual deployment teams. So Disaster Aid USA is one of those deployment teams. Team Rubicon is another one, and they're actually in the Ohio VOAD with us. There's many churches that are actually a part of the Ohio VOAD, and they have actually disaster recovery teams set up too. And again, it's what I call a disaster recovery team is someone that's been trained and they've got trained leaders. Before we get in, you're going to have your weekend guys just help, neighbors helping neighbors, family helping family. But it's not an organized event. It's just, the one or two offs types of things. Then working and assist with the submitting grants that are there. So Rotary actually and has a disaster grants that are set up, but we're also starting to see as these district disaster committees are setting up, the districts are actually putting projects together or grants together for a disaster that occurs. For example, I was part of one that established one from Maryland, a district in Maryland actually created a district grant for Greenville, Tennessee, from the last hurricane that came through. So you can be in the background of helping with that. And then, something I've not been too much involved with, but I've been aware of, is there's long-term recovery teams. And again, these teams are also part of VOAD, because they need to know when the recovery efforts are being done, when it's time for them to come in. So there's many different long-term recovery groups that just come in, and all these groups offer their assistance at $0 to the homeowner. So that's really kind of the big part of what we do there. So the long-term recovery, the only one I know, the Habitat for Humanity is one of the VOAD members, and I believe there's a few churches that have the long-term recovery efforts. And I can tell you that Jim and I were just down in Tennessee, and the day that our Rotary group deployment was shutting down, there was actually a recovery team coming in to take the same church camp that we had, and they were going to start recovering the 5 or 10 houses that we had available for that, to start happening. So there is, what I'm sharing with you, there's an entire network of people. There's an entire network of process. It's just that we don't know, probably most of us aren't aware of them, and it's there. We just have to plug into it. So it's not like you're reestablishing the whole thing. So we're going to talk a little bit about the why. Why Rotary? Why should Rotary get involved in this, and why should you get involved in this, and things like that. But when you think about it, what better group than Rotary that knows what's going on in the community, that has the connections around the community, and is able to help establish and point people the right directions when there's a problem. If you take that and you expand it across your district, and even if you expand it across the state, all the connections that we have is just incredible. So it certainly makes sense that Rotary be a part of that, that's there. Being a part of a team that protects the community and the Rotary district by helping and planning and preparing, you're actively investing in the safety and the resiliency of your neighbors. Your efforts are directly, help reduce the harm of the people, that you're around. So, I mean, it's something that's there. Accessing the unique resources and experiences. So the Rotary resources and the support group and this committee will actually establish access to a lot of grants, just a ton of training. I'm between FEMA, Red Cross, Disaster Aid US, each of the other groups. There's training and connections there that is incredible, and you do want to go into this as a trained individual, not or if you're not trained. We'll call those people. They're just our day laborers, so they're there to help us during the day event that's there. Make a difference, a lasting difference in the people's lives. I can tell you from firsthand experience that when this happens, most people aren't expecting it. Especially the floods and the tornadoes and different things. We can see hurricanes coming, but you still don't realize the effort that happens that into the effort that's there until you actually see it. And while short-term recovery is important, the long-term recovery is what's left in so when the local clubs and the district itself, it's the long-term recovery of helping people kind of get back to their new normal, so that it won't be the normal they got back to before, but their new normal. And if you could imagine watching your community kind of rebuild and come back into place, that was there, that is incredible. I can tell you from just recently, one of our team members from Greenville, Tennessee. Two of the guys from New York are actually leaving. I think it's tomorrow. They need to get out of town fast, though. But they're actually going to Chimney Rock, and they're going to help rebuild that community. That was a community that was completely wiped out. That's there. So it just does, and it doesn't stop at your community or your Rotary district. You'll actually have the access and the ability to help Rotarians across the United States and other states. So it's just one of the cool things about Rotary is we transcend the state lines, and we're able to help each other in multiple ways that's there, and you're helping them in their time of need, which is really rewarding. That's there. So when be a trusted resource in the time of need. This is actually, when disaster strikes, they're looking for leaders to stand up. And many people within Rotary are leaders that are there, and they're looking for us to help out and help give them relief and get the resources they need and the time that they need, that's there. Another why that we should get involved is creating a legacy of helping in tough times. When a disaster occurs, especially if it's in your community, you want the community to know that Rotary was a part of helping getting that recovery effort started and getting it going again. So it's a chance to create a legacy of support and relief. And can you imagine looking back and knowing that you left a lasting mark of Rotary on your community that's there. One of the ones I actually, the Living Out Rotary's motto in a real and impactful way is actually I think, my reason for being involved in disaster relief efforts. When a disaster strikes, every bit of help can make a life changing difference that's there. And I've been able to experience firsthand the powerful impact of showing up and people in dire need, and their just gratitude that you're there to help them. They don't know where to start. They're just, some of them have been just totally wiped out. Some of them is just, smaller, but and they can do that. But you experience firsthand the gratitude of the people that you're helping, with that. Raising awareness and driving real change. Being part of this committee, you'll be able to organize campaigns, raise awareness, and encourage others to participate. We've seen it where people get involved, and they just typically, most volunteers don't, even the day volunteers, most volunteers just don't do one event. Once they get into it and they see it and they experience it, they become active in many different ones. Growing as a leader, this is you personally. So it's many of the skills and the things that you get in this, you're able to use in other places of your lives, and experience that, from the training that you get that's there. And of course, building lifelong bonds and friendships. It's just, when you're there working together as a team, you certainly get the gratitude, and you build many of the bonds that's there. The picture on the left side, as you see it, well, both of those photos, the one is from Florida, the other one's from Mississippi. Many of those volunteers I never knew before, but we're constantly talking, and I'll get pinged on people that say, what are you guys doing in this? And it's guys that, that was there from the past. So we, together we can make a difference, build our communities, rebuilding our communities together, and make that new normal established. So what's next? So if you don't know it, many of the district governors do, but Zone 30 and 31 have been asking districts to establish a new disaster committee. And I think, while it's still early, I think ours, and I like the idea, but I think our state is actually, the district governors are coming together to say, let's establish one Ohio Disaster Committee above each of the district committees, and that's where the 501c3 would fit. So that's kind of what we're trying to establish is, what this committee and what's it look like. So here's kind of the structure. This is kind of the recommended structure from Zone 30. I will share with you, Ohio doesn't have, as you guys are probably aware, as many disasters as some of the other states. So Dale may be saying, hey, we're going to merge this position and that position together. And that's totally okay. So this is kind of the high level outline of what a disaster committee should look for. And there's many different areas that someone can volunteer in it. And some of them are more physical than others. Some of them are, financial. That's kind of, from a high level, what this may look like. Dale, do you want to talk anything more about this org chart? You're muted.
I followed my own advice and muted. No, I think you've hit it pretty well. But the VOAD liaison will be one of the key people below the chair, because that will be the connection to VOAD and the emergency management agencies when something happens. So that will be a key person. And for example, they will also be meeting, I believe it's quarterly. The Ohio VOAD meets on Zoom. So they would be asked to attend that. And some of these positions, might not come into play until there is something here locally for us to respond to. But no, I think you've
Okay.
covered it well. Oh, yeah, there is one other thing. This follows the ICS structure, the incident command structure that's used for by first responders and others when they are doing disaster response. We just kind of put rotary names to it, but it's the same structure if you've seen that in the past.
Yeah, and I had the other chart. It's at the end if you want me to bring it up. I
Yeah.
didn't get rid of that one.
No, I think it's okay. It's just that this organization will be familiar to other
Yeah.
organizations that are responding, I think is the key thing.
So kind of what, again, what we're, the wrap up of what and we'll go into questions and answers. So we need help from you at the members of the District 6630. It is a, full circle of efforts. We need to help in the planning of this committee, the planning of how things would happen, if a disaster struck. So that would be new to all of us. The responding, on the responding, I see a lot of times that we're just going to plug in on the responding either to Disaster Aid USA, or we're going to, help another NGO that's there, because there's, I'll be honest, it's a tremendous effort to try to stand it up properly on the short-term recovery. And it makes more sense just to plug in and help out with somebody else. As a matter of fact, Disaster Aid USA many times we join another NGO also. We work alongside a group called Operation Blessing. I like them a lot because they know who we are and they know our abilities, and they know that we have trained leaders. So they actually will send us out as a group and expand their network that's there, type of thing. So, and then, we need help in long-term recovery. So as a disaster happens in your area, how do we help those people get back to what their new normal would be, and establishing and rebuilding their homes and things that are there. The people that have insurance, the insurance, for the most part, the insurance company is going to take care of it. The thing is, there's a lot of gaps, in my opinion, because I can tell you that the homes we were helping in Greenville, Tennessee, were more than a quarter mile away from a creek that was probably 6 inches deep, and their elevation was probably 60 feet above that creek. And I don't think there's no one there that would ever thought that they needed flood insurance. So when that area flooded, everybody that flooded has no insurance unless they had flood insurance. And the same thing with in a tornado. So if a tree falls on a car, falls on a house, falls on a fence, the insurance company typically does that. But if it falls in your yard, and a lot of times if it falls on your house, they're going to come cut what's part of it depends on the insurance company, but we've seen where, they cut what's off the house and that's there, but we've seen other insurance companies remove it. So it really varies by that. But there's people that are insured many times need your help just because they're there. We do a lot of work for first responders, the elderly, even picking up debris in their yard because they can't do it. So there's a lot of effort that goes in through all this process. We can open up the Q&A if you want to.
Yeah, why don't we start with that? And Ed Slane has a question in chat. He asks, what does VOAD stand for? Is it a government organization or an NGO?
So VOAD stands for Volunteer Organizations Assisting in Disasters. And it's actually a national organization. Each state has should have its own VOAD. I've been in states where they don't work as well. They're not organized as well. But it is, is Larry on the phone?
Yes.
Hey, Larry, I don't know if it's a government organization. Can you answer that, Larry?
Yeah, no, it's an NGO, but it is the liaison between the NGOs and the government organizations. So the national VOAD may get some government money for their organization, but it's not, a federal agency.
Okay. So that's Larry Aggie. He's like I said earlier, he's our executive director for disaster aid. He's also on many of the he's on the leadership at the DNA RAG and the the Zone 30 disaster committee. So okay, any other questions?
Just again, who the members of VOAD are: Red Cross, Team Rubicon, Disaster Aid USA, Catholic Charities, the Methodist Church. Who else?
Crisis cleanup is in our area. Um, there's
Yeah.
there's
There-
probably
Yeah, there's actually hundreds of NGOs that are part of VOAD. Some of them are just in the state VOADs because they may be a charity just in that state, but other ones that cross state lines will be members of the national VOAD. So I was going to go on their website real quick and see, but it's a very large number of the VOAD. Some of them you've heard of, and some of them you've never heard of. They just do work.
yeah, there's a Baptist disaster organization. Operation Blessing is one of the big NGOs that go multiple states. Samaritan's Purse is another one. They're actually in the Ohio VOAD, and they go across state lines as does Disaster Aid USA. So they're just and we're all there doing the same thing. It's just trying to help people out, and they're all there doing it at $0 cost to the homeowners. I don't remember. I don't have that report up, but we do a post report on everyone where we actually try to share. Well, Larry, you just did a year-end summary. I'm putting you on the spot. What did Disaster Aid USA do last year in a dollar value to the homeowners that we calculated?
Yeah, we've done over $2.5 million worth of work for free this year. We did 27 deployments on the state side. We 800,000. Well, I guess about 650,000 for Hurricane Debbie. Over 1.5 million for Hurricane Helene and Milton, and then we responded to a number of tornadoes and smaller hurricanes, Hurricane Beryl, Hurricane Francine. It's some of the projects that you do affect a large number of people, like when you do points of distributions or feeding or handing out supplies, and others you may spend 3 days on a house and help a family of 4, but you just saved them $25,000 that they didn't have. So we try to we do talk about how many people we help, and it's around 30, 40,000 annually is an average. But for us, it's really the dollar amount, because when someone goes in and muck and guts a house, that's an easy $20,000. When we cut trees, people tell us all the time, hey, we got a quote for $10,000 and we just don't have it. Insurance isn't covering it. When we chop it down in a day for them, maybe day and a half. And, so it adds up quick, and if you've been through a disaster, there's lots of holes in your insurance policies, that things are covered and not covered.
So a few other questions. The first one I'll answer. Other districts in Ohio do not yet have disaster committees. I think there are, 2 or 3 are in the same stage as us out of the 5 that are working on establishing it and just getting started. I think there's a couple other that are further behind. Is that right to your knowledge, Dave?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, you guys are you're the leader for the state for sure. So
Okay.
And there's certainly interest in all in 2 to 3 other ones, and there's some that are, like you said, they're lingering a little bit further behind. But I can share with you that when a disaster, and we're in a very grateful area that we don't see that many disasters, and knock on wood, the things we've seen hasn't been that tremendous. But boy, when it does, Tennessee is an example, Eastern Tennessee, that where we were, they weren't prepared for that, and they were so grateful, and they're well on their track of correcting that at this point or adding to it.
Yeah, just going on to another question. Is Shelter Box part of VOAD, Larry?
No, sir. They're not involved in the domestic disasters on that level.
Okay, they did actually, from an email I got, I believe they did send some Shelter Box kits to North Carolina.
Yeah, they donated some money, and then I think they sent some what they call shelter kits, some tarps, some solar lights, some things like that. But you know, for the most part, don't do domestic disasters and aren't part of state and national VOADs. But they do great work, and probably 95% of their work is international, setting up huge refugee camps and things like that, and so yeah, but they're not part of the national VOAD right now. I'm not discounting what they do, because they do great work,
Right.
other places. So
next one, I'll quickly say, yeah, I will be sending out a link to the recording, and hopefully we'll somehow have a link to it from the district webpage. And I'll also send out a link to Disaster Aid USA's website to everyone, so that you have it. And so the work with the EMA, correct me if I'm wrong, but the work with the EMA and the volunteer agencies, we those are coordinated by the EMAs. They tell the groups where and when they can be, based on when it's safe. And so while it's probably not coordinated directly with the National Guard, the EMAs would have knowledge of where they're working and support if it's possible.
Yeah, well, and there's something that as you talk there, so yes, we work with the EMAs through Ohio VOAD and here's a typical example. We had a tornado last spring that came from Indian Lake over across the north side of Columbus, and a pretty good size one. We actually my team, Disaster Aid USA, didn't get invited into the what was going on in Indian Lake, which is fine. We're trying to get out to help the people, but they kept saying they had the help they needed, and they had 2 or 3 NGOs over there already working. So we would either just go join that group, but we actually found out Delaware County, which is just north of Columbus, wasn't getting any support, and so we switched gears and connected with the Delaware County EMA, and let them know that we were coming. We were available to come in, and we were able to come in, and it was pretty nice because we were able to stay at home, do the deployment, and just drive up there every day. So that worked out really well for us. But so we communicated to it. But the one thing is, so being a NGO and being an organized group, the National Guard many times are the ones watching the streets and not letting you in or letting you in. So just showing up with a chainsaw is not probably going to get you between, on the backside, but being a part of an organized group will get you there, and knowing that your EMA knows that you're there and doing work.
Dave, can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is Larry again. So one of the things is when you go into an area, the first thing we do is we call the emergency management agencies and the Rotary district governors. And when we talk to the emergency management groups, we tell them our resources, our capabilities, whether it's chainsaw, mucking and gut teams, rescue boats. And when you tell them you're with an organization with trained people, you're pulling a trailer with the logo on it. That sounds superficial, but it shows you're a part of a professional group. You've got chainsaws, you've got the equipment. I have never, in 20 years, I've never been turned away. they're like, yes, please come in. And they'll, sometimes they're like, work this part of town, or we haven't assessed everything. Can you assess this part and let us know? The other thing we do is we let them know that we're there to help the first responders, like when hurricanes hit and things like that. We tell them, say, look, give us a list of any first responder or government employee that is working the hurricane that has damage to their home, and we'll go help them. Well, those people are working 18 hours a day. They don't have time to go home, put a tarp on the roof, or take a tree off their house. And right away, they let you in. And during Hurricane Helene, we had a list in the panhandle of Florida where it came ashore, of like 35 different first responders or government employees that were working. And we worked those 35 first. And then a veterans group and an elderly agency gave us another list. So when you come in and you tell them, hey, here's who we can help. And I'm telling you, no one ever tells the emergency management people, we're here to help your people, and so it's a breath of fresh air. Those people need help so they can continue to help other people. But then it also builds a lot of goodwill between you and those emergency management people. And during Hurricane Debbie, those same groups gave us 100 dehumidifiers to work, mucking and gutting houses, and I think over 200 fans for free for like 3 months. If we had rented those, it'd have been $200,000 worth of rental fees, and they gave them to us for free. So building those relationships through VOAD and working with the emergency agencies is very important, so they know who you are. But being a part of the team, like Dave said, when you pull up to the National Guard, even if you haven't got in yet and the road's blocked and they see you, with the trailer, they're going to send you to the emergency management group and say, go check in with them. If you pull up in a car, and just trying to help, they're going to turn you around, because there's a lot of what we call disaster tourists. They're really just driving through to take pictures and look, and they just get in the way. So that's the importance of having y'all's, disaster response team, with Rotary involved. Everyone knows who Rotary is. It's a huge community service organization. And then, a disaster NGO alongside of you. So sorry, didn't mean to take up so much time.
That's okay. One more question in the chat and we'll get to you, Alan. I haven't lost you. Luann writes, I'm a retired registered nurse and certified diabetes educator. Are healthcare professionals needed to volunteer?
So yes, and it really, I'll be honest and say each disaster is different. But I, when I heard that she was a nurse, the first thing that came to mind was we were working in Hazard, Kentucky, and there was a group of nurses that were simply the local hospital had taken a group of nurses and they sent them out with shots for what is it when you get rusty?
Tetanus.
And hep A or B, I forget which one.
Okay.
But they were actually just walking around, volunteering with, is it every time? No, not necessarily, but there are, there are times that they definitely have, I've seen, nurses there. Larry, I don't know if you have any other add-on want to.
Yeah, it's especially the big hurricanes and stuff like that, and certain bigger tornadoes. And a lot of times we will have nurses that'll say they'll volunteer with us, and most of the time they end up being farmed out to another agency locally where they have nurses stationed. Hey, we want you in this neighborhood to check on people. So, medical personnel are definitely needed during these. And if we don't use you, we'll find an agency that does use you.
Alan, thanks for your patience. You're up.
So Larry hit a lot of my questions, or where I was going to go with. I was wondering about credentials, about if you go into a disaster and having credentials to get in to help out, and then also about finding out with the Red Cross or this training, where is training being done and when. I guess those are my questions, and how we formulate this plan.
So I can tell, well, so training
I
is,
mean, you don't want to walk in, just don't want to walk in and say, like you
Yeah.
said, you drive up in a car and, are there rotary shirts? Are there, a vest or something like that, or credentials that, you have that you've been trained to help out in these disasters?
so yeah, and there's, I'll be honest, there's training going on all year on, this stuff. It's just a matter of knowing how to get connected into the Red Cross network, how to, FEMA's got their, they've got an entire network of training that's available. It's not sometimes you may have to drive for it, if you want it. Like, for example, I am not CERT, what's called CERT training, clarified. So those are guys that actually, go in and, I may get this wrong, but my impression of it is that they're the ones that put the circle on the house and they put all the, the initials on it, but they're actually helping doing rescue and recovery. But when people that are what I'm trying to say is people that are CERT trained, that's the same clarification or the same training across the entire United States. So when you show up with your package, your ID, you get an ID badge from being searched. They know that you've been through that training process that's there, and it's important to have that's there. I tell you, I don't have it as of yet. I spent a lot of time last year trying to find a county, because usually they do that in a county perspective. And in my county and the counties around me, I've been trying to, and the one that I was able to get to, I couldn't go because I had a personal conflict. So, but so training's going on everywhere, and they're kind of doing that on what they call blue sky days, and they're just so it's a matter of knowing where to apply and apply for it. Disaster Aid USA has, we train our individuals. We have we have team members, we have team leaders. So you have to become trained to become a team leader. We want to make sure that we know that when we release you to with a trailer and you take it somewhere, that you're representing and you're doing the things right. So so for example, chainsaws, everybody hates it, but the fact is, if you're doing chainsawing with Disaster Aid USA, you're going to wear chaps, you're going to wear eye protection, you're going to wear head protection and ear protection. That's a requirement. And we just recently had one of our safety guys go out in the field without it, and he ended up cutting his leg. But it's a requirement, and so it's one of those things that it happens. I don't know. Hopefully, I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. We only have, I'd like to try to keep it to very close to an hour. So if you don't mind, there's been comments in the chat that you can follow, but the call to action today is who is interested in being on the committee to organize us to be prepared to respond to disaster. We do have a recommended structure that, as district governor, I strongly recommend that we use, that has come from the zone. Dave had a slide up of it earlier. And the training for those positions. So for example, the chair position is required to take, I believe it's ICS 100, and that's available through FEMA online. And I believe it's a 3-hour training course is what they say it'll take. But you walk through the slides and then take a test. And similarly, for the logistics person, there's a logistics course that's available through FEMA. That's already laid out there. Basically, that's one call to action, is who is interested in being on the committee to get us organized. And if you would respond in the chat for that. In answer to Ed's question, there was a disaster response of volunteers to the East Palestine disaster, and actually Ohio VOAD's long-term recovery chair is from East Palestine. He's with the Methodist Church there. So if I've got Albert and Alexandra and Dustin. And Laura
And
Gina.
the one
Sorry.
thing I would say to your team also, Dale, is, you know, you need members, you need leaders, but you also need team members. So
Yeah.
if you don't want to be the leader, but want to be on the, the committee, then,
Yeah.
Step in where you're comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. We just want your input so that we are structured in a way that makes sense for our district and that we have the right people involved and good representation across the district.
And I know in the template that we put out, that DNA RAG and the Zone 3031 put out, that me and a guy named Dan Flynn and Wayne, there was about 5 different authors of it. There's training for each position, like logistics and finance. If you're not sure what that does, we actually have links to FEMA training and stuff. And we do plan on going through the zones and offering those trainings for disaster committees. We're trying to organize those now. So you will not be left out to dry, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I liked how the document is put together. When I got it after zone, I was impressed with the how complete it is and how nice of a framework it sets up, and how it goes from the ICS to Rotary and kind of makes it more Rotary like. You heard the 501c3 mentioned once. Bob and Terry, I would like to see if we can find maybe 15 minutes at the end of the All Ohio Pets meeting in Columbus on February 1st to get with our peers from the other districts and see if we want to organize that on a statewide basis. We talked about that once before and it agreed, but we've got new people in the district governor lines. So I would just like to see if we want to do that on a statewide basis. And for those on the call, the 501c3 is set up so that other generous Rotarians and districts and clubs around the world could contribute in the event there's a disaster here to the response. So that, and that would most likely be used more for a long-term recovery than the immediate short-term. But if we don't have that 501c3 set up in advance, we won't receive those donations, because by the time we got them, it would be, got it set up rather, it would be too late. So that's what the 50C3 is about. One way that we can help right now, if you're interested, you've heard crisis cleanup mentioned a couple times. And when a disaster occurs, people who need help reach out to crisis cleanup, and their information and what help they need is tracked in that database. And then organizations like Disaster Aid USA, Team Rubicon, and others, members of Ohio of the VOED, go into that database and select people they can help based on the resources that that organization has. So when something happens, it's vital that that information of those people in need gets entered. And the teams get overloaded when a disaster occurs right after. So there's always help needed with getting caught up on those phone calls, and you can do it from your home. All you need is a telephone and a computer, and there is training available. So if you're interested in taking part in that, also let us know. And it's a great way you can determine. You can just do it for a couple hours, 4 hours a day, whatever meets your schedule when that occurs. So it is a way we can help elsewhere without traveling. And sorry, I'm capturing names here as we go along. You know, one I've said it in my club visits, but you know, how we can respond to disasters varies. And when we had the macro burst and tornadoes here and all the power outages, if we'd been part of Ohio VOED, I would like to think that we would have been able to nudge Giant Eagle through Ohio VOED, nudge Giant Eagle and First Energy to allow us to deliver ice and water to seniors and those who couldn't get out and get it themselves when First Energy and Giant Eagle were giving that out free. So, you know, I could imagine going to your local county Department of Aging, saying, who are your Meals on Wheels recipients, and delivering ice and water to them in partnership. And that would have been a way for us to help out when that macro burst occurred. So,
And yeah, I would even say, I mean, we talked about getting to know the EMAs. I mean, that we probably disaster aid, our team for the Ohio Disaster Aid USA, we probably have reached out to 10 or 15 of the local EMAs. Just in that Blue Sky Day, it's a great opportunity to have someone go over and introduce and say, here's what Rotary's doing, and here's our capabilities, so that they do know that when a disaster happens, we're a team that can help.
yep. Sorry, I'm just
That's right.
taking notes. Are there any other questions or comments before we wrap things up? If not, I'd like to thank Dave, Larry, and Jim for joining us, and I thank all of you for giving up an hour or so of your Saturday morning to take part in this, and thank you for your interest in service above self and all that you do. So thank you very much and have a great day. I'm going to stay on here for a moment and write down things from chat. If you have any other things for me or that you want to discuss, I'll be hanging on here for just a little bit. With that, have a great new year and a great day.
Thank you. Bye all.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.
Good discussion. Thanks.
Hey, Dale, this is Dave.
Yeah.
I'm in the process now of sending you the PDF link
Okay, good.
so that you can send it out. It'll email as a PDF, but it won't email as a PowerPoint.
That's fine.
Okay. So
In fact, I'd prefer the PDF. That way we, it's not changeable. Did I say
Yeah.
that?
okay.
Will there be a link to rewatch this?
Yes.
This is recorded.
Unfortunately, I started it a few minutes late, so hopefully you saw when the thing popped up.
Okay, you should have that. If for some reason you don't, just text me or give me a shout. I'll be glad to.
I know where to find you, Dave.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good New Year's. Thank you.
Same to you.
I'm gonna head out, Larry, or Dale.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Travel safe and enjoy.
Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dale. This is David.
Hi, David.
Hi. Just wanted to compliment you and the team on the wonderful work Rotary is doing as NGOs. I'm the liaison between the Ohio National Guard and Northeast Ohio Fusion Center. I work with CERT about twice a month, not just in theory, but in practice. We're out there doing about 20 hours a month. If I could be of any assistance to you, certainly I see people interested in training, and that's called an IS-317. That is an evaluation of your capabilities. Are you a carpenter? Are you a nurse? Can you do plumbing? Can you drive a diesel truck? We fit you into the chain of command, understanding standard operating procedures. And again, it's only 8 hours of training. just a wonderful program. I'd like to see 1 or 2 members of the district go through that program and then the management training, which is only an additional hour, so that we have both training and preparedness, and we have management and the understanding of how we fit together as a gear with the government organizations.
Yeah,
I would love to have Rotary as a resource.
good. Thank you.
You guys are just very special,
Sorry,
and you know
I'm
your community.
trying to get all the names in.
Have a great Saturday.
Thanks, you too.
To be safe.